Hey guys, welcome to the fourth video in our introduction to Java sockets. So in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to code the server now, because like I talked about in the last video, we got the client established, we got the client all set. So let's begin coding the server. So we'll go over here into our server class, and like I said in the last video, it's going to look a lot like the client. And with respect to, we've got to have a print writer for the output, we've got to have a buffer reader for the input, and we've got to have the socket for the connection, right? So let's make those real quick here. I'm going to go over this part kind of quick because we already covered that in the last videos. So private static print writer, that's output. Private static buffered reader, that's our input. And then private static socket, we'll call that one connection again. So those are the same. Let me import those real quick. So the only thing different that we're going to need as far as server is concerned is we need something called a server socket. The server socket basically says, hey, I'm going to have another socket connect to me. So it's very much like a normal socket, except the server socket basically just says I'm hosting, and the other socket can connect to me through the port that I designate. So let's create that real quick. It's private static server socket, and we'll just call this one our server socket because it's simple and easy. We'll import that real quick. Awesome. So those are the four objects that we need for our server class, right? The only different one in the client being the server socket. So let's go ahead and code our main method, public static void main string array args. Alright, so with this one, it's basically the same thing. We need to basically, instead of connecting to a socket though, or a server, we are the server, so we wait for the connection. So let's create, basically the first thing we need to do is start our server, then we have to wait for the connection, and then we have to do something while it's connected, right? That makes sense, I'm sure. So let's outline those three methods real quick. So we'll say start server, we'll say wait for connection, and we'll say while connected, right? Makes a lot of sense, right? So let's go ahead and code our start server, private static void start server. And what we're going to do here basically is, again, we're messing with sockets here, so we're going to get into Java I/O. So we have to surround everything we're about to do in a try catch block. So we'll say try, and then we'll catch our I/O exception. We will print our stack trace. And then what are we going to do? How do we set up the server socket? This one's really, really simple. So what we do is we say server socket equals new server socket, and all that we do is pass in one argument, the port we want our server socket to be listening on. Java does a really good job of abstracting a lot of the socket work away from you. Server sockets and normal sockets connections in Java are beautiful. There's a lot more work you have to do in like C or other languages, but Java really abstracts a lot away from you. So to create the server, literally all we do is say server socket equals new server socket, and we'll pass in the port number, which we decided was 1201, right? So boom. Let's throw a couple, we'll do standard output. Let's throw a couple system out print line statements there so that we can see what's happening. So we'll say starting server, ... and then now that it's up, we'll be like server starting. Just so that we can see that everything's happening the way we want it to. So, awesome. So now that we've started the server, how do we wait for a connection? What do we do from here? So let's go ahead and do private static void wait for connection. And once again, everything here is inside of a I/O exception. So try, and then we'll catch our I/O exception. Print our stack trace. So how do we wait for a connection? It's really, really simple. So basically what's going to happen is the server socket sits, and it's created, and it sits there and waits until someone tries connecting to that port. When someone tries connecting to that port, we could tell it what to do with that connection. So remember in the last one I said a socket is a pipe. A socket is basically that pipe, it's the connection going from N1 to N2. So what we do is we connect that pipe to that server socket that's listening on that port so that we can feed data back and forth, right? So we do that by saying our connection, that normal socket, is going to be equal to server socket dot accept. What that's going to do basically is it says, hey, the server socket sits here and waits until someone tries to connect to it. When someone connects to it, we're establishing that connection, that socket, as equal to, we're accepting the connection request that the server is receiving when somebody tries to connect to that port. So now we have that pipe, that socket created. So now we do the same thing we did in the last video, is we set up our streams, right? So let me print connection established. And what we're going to do is we're going to say with, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say connection.get INET address. What that's going to do basically is it just show us that, hey, this IP address just connected to us. So we're saying connection.get INET address. So when somebody connects to us, I'm just printing out where it came from, or excuse me, what the IP address is. So now that that's happened, we can say we have to set up our streams, setting up streams. And then the same thing as before, right? So we're going to say input equals connection dot, connection, we got to get the input stream from the connection. So we say our input's a buffer reader, same thing, equals new buffer reader. And it's going to be an input stream reader, because we're reading that input stream. And the input stream is the connection dot get input stream. So let's import that real quick. Oh, excuse me. It's not INET address, it's get input stream. Perfect. So now that the input stream is established, we'll print that out to us. Input stream established. And then we got to do the same with the output, except output's a print writer, so output equals new print writer. Connection.get output stream. And then again, that auto flush boolean, so that it flushes our bits as we send it to the server. So, and then we'll print output stream established, so that we can see those streams are established. I'm actually going to throw a new line here, so that actually we'll throw the new line on the next one. So our wait for connection is basically done here. So we started the server, and we got our wait for connection. So once again, the pipe, the connection itself, is going to be equal to the server socket.accept. It's accepting the connection from a client. And then we set up the streams the same way we did in the last thing. So I don't think I have to go over that too much. So let's go ahead and start coding our while connected method. We'll say private static void while connected. And it's very similar to the last one. We're going to keep doing this until an exit condition is met, right? So it looks like we're at 8 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and end the video here we created our while connected, and we haven't coded anything in it yet. So in the next video, we're going to start coding the while connected, and it's going to be it's going to be practically the same thing as the client. We're going to go ahead and code that anyways, and then we'll probably have time to just code our terminate session method as well in the next video. So in the next video, we should be able to finish up the server, and we should be able to test it out and see if our Ecto server is working. So once again, thanks for coming, and hope to see you guys there.